Welcome to Travel Secrets with me, Tanya Rose, the podcast sharing wisdom for fellow travellers. Each week, I ask my guests to reveal their 6 travel secrets and the holidays and adventures that surround them. I would just like to say thank you to Mason Rose, the sales and communication agency that represents some of the finest hotels around the world, for partnering with Travel Secrets, the podcast. Today, my guest is the lovely Franky Rousell, CEO and founder of interior design company Jolie. I hope I've got the spelling and the sound of that right. They are leading the way in designing hospitality and residential environments with human psychology at its core. So smells, colours, textures, everything to make you feel relaxed and at home. You grew up in the Cotswolds. Your business is based in Manchester, and there is nobody who knows Manchester better than you. So I hope you're going to give us some tips and tricks about visiting Manchester, as well as wonderful other places around the world. Welcome, lovely Franky.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful introduction. Thank you. That's, it's amazing. And it's so funny when you sort of mention the Manchester reference. It's definitely somewhere that I'll be giving a few little hints and tips on for sure.
Thank you. And before we get into your travel secrets, perhaps you can just tell us a bit about yourself and how travel has impacted the person that you've become.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm the CEO and founder of Jolie. We're an international interior design company now, which seems crazy to say. We started off with humble beginnings in Manchester 8 years ago. With just myself, and we've grown now to a studio across London, Manchester, and we're opening a studio in New York later this year, which is exciting. Incredible. And for me, I trained in architecture. I did about 4 years in industry, and then I decided there was a huge gap in the market, particularly around experiences in spaces, guest experiences, whether that's hospitality or even sometimes, the places we go to work. And I'm really passionate about, changing the way that design is not just perceived, but how we approach it as designers. So I've really sort of carved my path, I think, in a narrative that's slightly different from other people around interiors. And it's really focused, like you say, around the senses and the experience and the neuroscience behind it. So it's been an incredible journey so far, and one that I'm super excited to just continue to push ahead with and continue to grow the business internationally.
And have you travelled doing that? Have you done things abroad?
Yes, gosh, yeah. I mean, that's one of the perks of the job, is that you really do get to see some amazing places and meet some amazing people. And we've started from ground zero, and I really did, start at 25 years old and had absolutely no money whatsoever. So it was, those early days were all about just having that visual in mind of one day, you'd be getting on a plane and going and meeting a client somewhere. But that certainly wasn't the case in the first few years. But I think now we regularly find ourselves hopping, off to clients over in Amsterdam. We do quite a lot of work over in the States. We're doing stuff over a lot in Germany, actually. And equally, it's so interesting. We had a request through for a hotel over in Poland recently. So you just don't know what's going to land in your inbox on the Monday morning and where you might find yourself on the Friday. So it's really fascinating to kind of have that journey to go on and just be reactive to some of those things.
Have you done a whole hotel yet?
So we've done a beautiful hotel in the Cotswolds, actually, which is really interesting that kind of came as a full circle moment, as an area that I really sort of grew up in, and I'm very proud to have grown up in, and I think has changed so much over the years. And I still regularly sort of visit my family in that area, and so to have completed a hotel in that region is amazing.
What's it called?
It's called Hill Hotel, actually. It's the old Charingworth Manor, and it's a beautiful Grade 2 listed, very much a boutique style hotel. We designed 3 really intricately designed bedrooms, 8 bedrooms, 3 lounges. And it was a real sort of test bed of being able to kind of really show our strengths in those sensory aspects. But now we're currently due to complete on a really interesting project over in Chester Zoo, which is very niche up in the north of England. We've designed up to 60 of their lodges, which are going to be very sort of farmhouse style, really focusing in on that kind of overnight romantic getaway weekend, but also accommodating those young families, but really kind of taking that experience to the next level and elevating things. And that's been an incredible one to work on. I mean, the actual lodges themselves literally look over the giraffe enclosure. We've got external bathtubs and everything. So that's very, very soon going to be completing. And we're really excited about that one, because I think that's going to be a real kind of moment for us at Jolie.
How fantastic. Well, let's get into your travel secrets. Yeah. What is the number one destination that you think everyone should go to once in their lifetime?
It's such a hard question, that, but I think for me, I always find myself trying to gravitate back to the United States. And there's something there that personally for me feels like it really fuels me and energizes me every single time I go there. I then had to kind of decipher where. And, you know, I think it is a real toss-up between New York and LA for me. It's so hard to choose between the two. Obviously, New York, the grandeur, the scale of it, the literal, you know, architecture and how insignificant yet significant you can be there, is such a powerful experience. The kind of collective creative minds that exist there, and the pulse of the city, just there's something about it that I find really magical, and it really kind of fills my creative cup. But then equally, you know, I recently went back to LA with my little boy who's 1.5. But I had gone prior to having him. And it was really interesting to see how LA actually really lends itself beautifully to both an amazing kind of city that you'd go to, or area that you would go to with a partner. Kids. But then equally, it really kind of pivots into an amazing family holiday as well. So having, you know, the city, then going up Runyon Canyon and being able to do that hike and see the perspective of everything, and those super mansions. I mean, there's just nothing like it when you're sort of up in the Hollywood Hills looking over that. And then equally seeing the glistening of the ocean in the distance. It's just such a profound experience, seeing such a huge place play out in so many different ways, all in front of your eyes. And so it's really hard to choose between those two.
That's fine. Do you have any special places that you go back to time and time again when you go to New York or to LA?
I think for me, New York, I really find myself in Brooklyn. I really love, particularly Williamsburg, is an area that Manhattan's amazing. And actually, when I'm doing my working days, there is nowhere better than Manhattan. You really do feel like you're smashing it in your career when you're walking up some of those streets and, waving down those cabs and going from meeting to meeting. But then it's so nice to kind of retreat back to Brooklyn as the sun starts to set over the bridge, and start to dive into some of those gorgeous little wine bars and see that side of things come alive, and, you know, eating in those gorgeous restaurants and small plates, and sitting out on the street and hearing, you know, somebody really local have an argument with, you know, someone. It's just so cool.
So New York.
I think it's probably New York. I do think, though, LA, equally, there's some real magic in Malibu. There's something there that's, you know, I just haven't found anywhere else like it. So I think, Brooklyn or Malibu would be my two places.
What's your most unexpected travel experience?
I think for me, I was very fortunate when I was younger to be offered to go to India at the age of 17 to actually spend a month over in India. This came as a kind of an opportunity that came through my sixth form at the time. So I had a kind of group of friends who we all rallied together, and we put our money together, and I worked weekend after weekend after weekend saving up, and got to go there. And interestingly, you know, I didn't do a lot of travel as a young person. So this was like me coming out of the blocks and going straight into India. It was quite an incredible experience. And there was a moment, so we went out to climb a Himalayan peak called Stok Kangri, and that was the kind of intention of the trip, to also work with a women's alliance and an orphanage whilst we were out there, and really do that kind of typical sort of almost gap year type experience, but consolidated into a month. But one thing that really stands out to me actually is a memory that sometimes even when I close my eyes at night and I want to kind of feel like a sense of grounding and normality is we were walking in the foothills of the Himalayas just as a day trek to kind of prepare for this big climb, and stumbled upon this sound that was just coming out of the back of this hill, and sort of turned around the corner, and there was this hidden, buried Buddhist temple in the side of the hill, and the monks, some of them were sort of sat outside, some were inside chanting and praying, and they sort of caught us, a group of 3 lads and 2 girls, and said, come in. So we got to pray with them for about 10 minutes, and I didn't know what I was doing. You just sort of sit there and start joining in, but you felt it was very palpable. You felt it, and still to this day I can remember the smell of that place and how it felt. And so I think that was totally unexpected, but really shaping actually an amazing thing to do at that young age as well. Yes, I think anyone that goes to India is changed for life. 100%. And it's an incredibly hard place sometimes to travel to. It can be quite an emotional place. I haven't actually been back since I was 17, not for any other reason than life's just carried on, and there's been lots of other places that I've wanted to travel to, but it's somewhere that I'd love to go back to now as I'm in my 30s and really sort of see it through that lens. But I think when you're 17, 18, even 16, you're really sort of finding your political voice and what you think's right and wrong. And so to be met with, great visual poverty as well as affluence is it's very grounding. Very grounding. I think my mother was a bit concerned about me when I came back, because I sort of went inwards for about a month after to just kind of process. But I'm so grateful for that experience now, because I think it opened my eyes up to the world, and really sort of showed me what else was out there. I think it would be lovely for you to go back from an interior design point of view as well, with all the different textures and, things that you would see, the colors. It would be amazing. Oh my God, 100%. I'd love to go back there. And even to this day, I've still got keepsakes that I picked up whilst I was there, and I've refused to throw them away. They sit in a box in our garage. So the fabrics, like you say, the incense, the food, it's one of my favorite cuisines. I love Indian food, absolutely. Yeah. Indian food anywhere in the world. Love it. Yeah. Love it. Let's go on to the next travel secret. What's your most overrated or underrated travel experience? I think for me, I was, the context of this was that I was 7 months pregnant, and we were looking for somewhere to go as our kind of last hurrah before my baby came. And we decided that we'd love to do a bit of a baby moon in Italy, and picked a few places that we'd not really done an awful lot in Italy before. So it was quite a new one for us. But I'd heard a lot about like good and bad things about Rome as a city. And I feel, I went in, interestingly, with quite low expectations. I think you tend to hear about Rome, whilst it is such an amazing place and it's got such historical significance, I think people, tend to come away from it feeling quite overwhelmed, or it's very touristy and you can't really cut through the noise of that. So I really went into that with low expectations. And I was absolutely dumbfounded when we got there. It was the most incredible city I think I've ever been to. I think sometimes it's good to go in with low expectations. Much better than the other way around. Absolutely, absolutely. And we were only there for 2 nights. Stayed in the amazing Soho house there and really enjoyed, that gorgeous rooftop pool and everything. But then we got on foot as soon as we could and started walking around. And I just couldn't believe, you can literally throw a rock and hit a building that would be of, there's a kings or queens or gladiators that had got a story behind it. And every twist and turn, there's, buildings that have got cultural significance. And as an architect, absolutely, I bet you were absolutely dumbfounded. I just couldn't believe it. It's like opening an architecture book that you get taught at school, and it's all playing out in front of you. It was amazing. Well, very brave at 7 months walking around. Oh my gosh, you must have been exhausted. Well, I have to say, I did try and do a couple of the monuments, and there were lots of steps, and there was quite a funny moment where my legs just decided no. I got double cramp in my legs, and I thought I was going to have to ask for a wheelchair at one point, and Matt was mortified. But no, I did manage to get through it, and it was, you know, it was an amazing place to go. And then we took respite in Sicily, so that was really nice as a follow-up. Yeah,
how nice, fantastic. I think Rome is an amazing city, and there is so much to do without even going to a museum. Just seeing everything is just wonderful. I actually did it on a Vespa. So I watched one of my favourite films in the world, which is Roman Holiday, with Audrey Hepburn and Gregory Peck. And he takes her around Rome on a Vespa.
Oh, that's so
I
cool.
did. It was incredibly touristy, but I said, I want to do the same thing. So they take you on a Vespa, somebody driving with you, to all of the places, the Trevi Fountain, and where you put your hand into the thing.
So
it was absolutely wonderful.
Oh,
I'm not sure now. That was probably about 20 years ago. So it probably is even more busy now, and the traffic's even worse. But it was such a great way to see the city.
Oh my God. Well, I'll have to definitely take you up on that next time I go.
But not with the baby.
Not with the baby.
Leave the baby behind.
No, good idea. Good idea.
Before we go on to the next one, I'd love to know a little bit about Manchester, because I think Manchester can be underrated as a city, and it's so exciting now. Can you just give us a few tips and tricks about Manchester?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's so funny, isn't it? I think that it's still an area that is so unexplored, especially for a lot of Southerners like myself who, you know, I did make the move up there following my degree at uni, and I lived there for 12 years. So it's been amazing to see that city develop and really come into its own and come to life. I think the food scene in Manchester is incredible. I think the secret to that is that obviously as a city, and as a business owner that started there, it is a city that you can, you know, start up and really be brave and test and trial things without running the risk of the overheads that exist in London. So I think there's a lot of creative mavericks up there who are doing things quite differently, and therefore you get some incredible, you know, bars, restaurants to go to. And I regularly still visit our studio up there. I recently actually checked out a brand new restaurant called Winsome, which is amazing. Very much kind of a British butcher type aesthetic, very pared back, white tablecloths, but then a very minimal aesthetic. And the food is insane, very British, and really celebrating, I think, some of those kind of regions, the Pennines around the city. So that was a wonderful experience. But I think, you know, I recently actually did a piece in Elle Decoration where I referenced a lot of my favourite spots there. And
yes, so definitely listeners, go to that article because it's a brilliant guide to Manchester, what you need to do.
Yes, and I love to shop. I love to eat. I love to go to gigs and listen to a lot of music. So I really try to kind of pull some of those themes through in that. So yeah, definitely go and check that out.
Go and check that out. It's a very, very good guide to Manchester. And actually it takes us nicely onto the food and drink question, because you were saying that it's got a great food and drink scene there. So food is so part of travel and so important to all of us. So what do you like eating? Where do you like eating? Let's talk about your favourite cocktail, restaurants, bars.
Shall we start with cocktails?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, a few kind of ones really spring to mind. For me, as I mentioned before, New York is a place that I absolutely love. And I love a dirty martini, preferably very dirty martini. So there's actually a bar in New York called Jupiter that I think I found my favourite one when I was sort of sat there. Again, I think a lot of the experience that you have with food and drink really is about the people you're with, the environment you're in, the context of the day. So it was off the back of a real kind of hustly day in central New York. And I was with my creative director, Sarah, and we sat at that bar and just really enjoyed that moment together and savoured every last drop of that.
Where is Jupiter
martini.
In New York?
It's actually in the Rockefeller Center.
Oh, okay.
So it's one of the kind of the basement retail units there, and it's beautiful. It's a very cool concept, but we just dived in for a quick cocktail and then escaped. But I think the food's supposed to be amazing as well. Also, spagliato is my new kind of tipple of choice.
What's a spagliato?
Well, it's kind of like a Negroni, but they top it up with Prosecco.
Oh, yes, I've had one of those. When I was at Castel Falfi in Tuscany recently. I had one. It was delicious because I love a Negroni.
Yes.
But I had that. Exactly.
So I first tried this in Berlin, actually. Berlin's an incredible city. Again, another one that I would be top on my list to visit if you can. But I was in a little bar called FRIEDA, and they had an incredible cocktail list, and I saw Spagliato and I'd never had it before. So that was my choice. And that then became the drink of Christmas for us in our household. We were constantly pouring more Spagliato. So I would encourage people to try that if they haven't already. So yeah, those would be my notable cocktail moments. I think for food, so as we were talking about Manchester, there is actually an amazing restaurant called the Sparrows, who are, doing things really interesting, kind of culmination of things like spatzel, which is like a twisted pasta, really delicious, and they make it in tons of different ways. But then they're also blended with this incredible sake menu and offering. So they've got like that Japanese twist as well. It's really unusual. It's under these old railway arches in Red Bank district. And it's kind of one of those, like, you sort of knock on the door, you think you're in the wrong place, and then you open it up and it's like the most amazing hospitality. So that meal, I think, was really defining for me in terms of trying it and thinking, wow, this is so delicious. So yeah, the Sparrows is incredible. I really kind of flipped between places where it feels a little bit more fine dining, but then also there's something to really be said for unfussy. So for me, a recent visit on the sort of slightly finer side was Au Top in Paris, in the Marais district. This restaurant, again, really unusual entrance. You sort of find yourself in a residential courtyard, then going round the back by the bins, and there's a lift, and you think, I'm definitely not in the right place. There's just a little plaque on the wall. But you go right the way up to the rooftop, and when you get up there, you've got beautiful views of the kind of rooftops of the Marais district in Paris.
Such a beautiful area. Is that the Place des Vosges and all of those sort of things?
Exactly. Incredible shopping around that area as well. And so, yeah, we sort of sat up there, and it was actually quite a chilly day in February, but they can bring the roof over or retract it in the summer, so it's completely open air. And I was amazed by the food that they were serving up there. It was incredible. We had this artichoke. I never knew how to eat an artichoke, but the man really taught me how to kind of pull the leaves off and eat it properly. And they really love their cuisine in Paris, don't they? So it was an incredible place. But then equally, like I say, about the unfussy side of things, I remember having an amazing lobster roll at Broad Street Oyster Company in Malibu, and you just sit in a parking lot and grab it out of a van. They call your name, and you just sit there, and it's just off the PCH, off the Pacific Coast Highway, and best lobster roll I've ever had.
Oh, that sounds delicious, and that's such a great drive. So wonderful. Did you go to Big Sur and all over there? It's fantastic.
Amazing. And I'm hoping, because I've not been back obviously since the devastating fires that happened over there, that some of those spots that we really felt like we'd made memories in are still there. But yes, the PCH drive you feel like you're in a movie.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
And now I know where to go and get a wonderful lobster roll. How exciting. Definitely going back on my list. You were telling me a little bit, going back to Manchester, about Nobu going into Manchester. Can you just tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. So they've just actually announced that Nobu is coming into the city. It's going into the incredible development called Viaducts. So I think they're taking one of the towers and doing the full hotel and restaurant offering, which is so amazing. And I think that's a real kind of indicator and a testament to Manchester really, putting its stake in the ground as a city that should be, known globally. So we're very excited to see what that has to offer and see how that plays out in the north of England as well.
No, exciting, very exciting. Let's go on to your top travel tip or travel secret.
Yes, I had such fun thinking about this one because I think mine's really niche and also drives my partner Matt up the wall. But for me, I'm as I should be through Jolie, our whole concept's very sensory driven, and we design spaces with all of the 5 senses in mind. And personally, fragrance is a huge part of my life. I'm just obsessed I'm such a fragrance nerd. I just think it holds real power in, you know, being able to bottle up memories and be able to dive back in. And so anytime I travel anywhere, I always make it my mission to go and buy a new perfume wherever I go. And this has really stood me in good stead when I come back, to be able to dip back into that experience of having a particularly hectic day, or even if I need to go into a really important meeting and I need to channel a bit of that Manhattan energy. I dive into my perfume drawer and I grab the one that I was wearing in Manhattan, and it just gives me that energy. So I would really recommend, you know, when you're next traveling, to think about that and try and wear it whilst you're there, and then reach for it again when you get home. It really sort of brings back that memory.
That's a fantastic tip. I am completely the opposite. I've worn the same perfume for 25 years. In fact, I now have two. I've worn Cristal by Chanel, and now I wear Rose by Jo Malone, Red Roses. Gorgeous. Or the Rose one. But literally, I do not, if anyone gives me perfume, I just think, please don't, because I'm not going to wear it.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Because it takes you back to that place.
Yeah, I think so. And, you know, they always say, don't they, that you buy that bottle of wine when you go on overseas, and then you bring it back and you drink it back in Blighty in the weather when it's all a bit grim and it just doesn't quite taste the same.
The rosé doesn't quite have the same edge as it does in Saint-Tropez.
Yeah. So I think we're all on this kind of mission to try and bottle up those experiences somehow. And for me, fragrance really seems to have that power to kind of, and you know, the neuroscience is there. It taps into your olfactory system, and it really is bound to memories. And, you know, we can all recall smelling our mother's perfume or an ex's perfume. So we can use that same power when we're sort of weaving through different cities to kind of tap back into that time and place. But yeah, I was doing a bit of trivia last night, asking my partner Matt to mention some place we've been to, and then I'd name the perfume.
Oh, really? And could you?
A few of them, yeah. Funny you mentioned about the Jo Malone. For me, there's a few different Jo Malone ones that come in there. I really love her work. But Barcelona was, I think it's White Mint and Jasmine that she does. New York was Burning Barbershop by D.S. and Durga. There's so many, you know, ones that, like I say, I always make it my mission. Sometimes they're just as simple. I went to Marrakesh and I got this orange blossom oil that they burn everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I still dive into that now when I want a sense of that relaxation that you get in Marrakesh.
How wonderful. What a great tip. I love it. I think I might change, and instead of wearing the same perfume, change so that I have a different one all over the world. That'd be amazing. That probably would do my husband's head in, because as you said, your husband or your partner says, oh my goodness, how many bottles of perfume do you actually have? It's so funny. That takes us nicely onto the most poignant travel memory that you have.
For me, there's nothing that feels quite as powerful as when you're holding your little baby. I mean, I took my little boy on a plane as soon as we could. We sort of ripped off the plaster and did it about 3 months, and went short haul initially and then built up and up. And then eventually ended up taking him to LA and then New York last year. And I think looking over some of those skylines and holding your little one, those are the moments where I felt like there were sort of tears in my eyes. I don't know what it is about sharing the world through your children's, or seeing the world through your children's eyes, even though it's so tiny and he probably has no idea what's going on. But it just feels so magical to be able to share that with them. And also because they're so tiny and these skylines are huge, especially in New York. So seeing him sort of sat on the Brooklyn side of the river and waving over at all the boats going down the Hudson, or not the Hudson, the other one. I always get those two mixed up. But waving to the big skyscrapers in New York will be something that I think will be forever lodged in my memories. It's such a magical experience.
That's so lovely. And actually, we were talking before we started about photography and photos, and you were saying that you'd had fun going through all the photographs, because I asked you to bring a photo that summed up travel. So perhaps you can tell us about that photo, but about going through your photographs and also about your camera you were telling me about.
Yes. So, when you sort of asked me to bring one along, it really prompted me to go back through my camera album. You know, all on our phones, we've got so many snaps that we take, and then we just never seem to look at them again. So it was really great, actually. The good thing about the iPhone is you can just put in keywords like food or building or whatever, and it'll pull up all those photos. There's also the map function on photos on the iPhone where you can search by map. So you zoom in on a country and then it'll bring up all your photos that you took while you were in that place.
Do you have to tag them for that or not?
No, it just happens. I guess you have to maybe have your location settings enabled, so that whilst you're snapping away, it's sort of subtly banking that data. So yeah, it's a really nifty way of kind of, I've used it a lot actually to remember what bars and restaurants I've been to on my iPhone, but it really kind of prompted me to go back through and relive some of those amazing holidays. So I think photos and photography is something that I'm really passionate about. It runs through my family. My grandfather was a professional photographer. So whenever we're going anywhere, again, my partner Matt, bless him, but he has to stand and wait for me to get that shot. But yes, I think there's nothing more powerful than capturing on film as well. But, you know, when we're out and about on the streets, whether that's New York, Paris, Berlin, whatever it is, it can be quite full on and there's a lot going on. And you don't really want to be standing there for even 2 minutes whilst you're ready to go and get that coffee, trying to get your aperture right and your shutter speed. And, you know, I'm not a professional photographer, so I found a amazing camera actually recently that was from the 80s, the Minolta X700, which I use a lot when I travel. Beautiful film, and it's very much acts like a point and click. So you can choose whether you want to stand there and really play with the settings, or if you just want a quick option, you just set it to auto and you can just point and click and you still get that same gorgeous aesthetic. And then also there's that lovely thing about taking it to get developed and then going and picking them up and not knowing what you got. So that's so exciting. And I think it's nice to kind of do a bit of both, having it on your phone and also on film. That's
a lovely tip. And what photograph did you bring for us when you were sifting through to talk about?
Yes, yeah, gosh, again, so hard when we take thousands of photos when we travel. My photograph's quite a simple one. This was a recent trip that we took to Corfu with my partner's family. His dad's got a boat over there, but this time we actually rented a gorgeous house up in the hills in Corfu. And we, every evening, because it was almost like an Airbnb type property, we sat out and made our own food. And whilst we did kind of go to some local tabernas and restaurants, we really made a point of kind of making our own dinners. So there was a gorgeous barbecue there. And so the picture itself is a snap of myself and my little boy Blue, sat waiting for everyone else to get to the table so we can dig into this big, delicious supper that we'd made. And again, that's another one that I tend to do is, I think there's something so amazing about going shopping locally in supermarkets when you're overseas, especially when you're on the continent or anywhere near the Mediterranean. It's so amazing going into those grocery stores and seeing the size of the tomatoes and
makes you feel like a local, doesn't it?
It really does. Yeah. So we rented a little old Fiat and pootled down to the grocery store and filled up the car with all this fruit and veg, and then came back and I'd snapped before I went a few pictures of some of my favourite salads in these cookbooks that I've got so that I could remember, you know, how to cook when you get there and you're overwhelmed by that new kitchen and that new environment. So I was able to rustle up some big bowls of salads whilst we were there. And I think hopefully it went down quite well.
How wonderful.
Corfu, what a place. It's just incredible.
Gorgeous. I went many, many years ago. I haven't been for many years, but I absolutely loved it during my childhood when I went. And I'm sure it's fabulous still.
Yeah.
So before I let you go, what's next for you? Where are you going next? But also what's next for you in your wonderful career?
Yes. Well, in terms of travel adventures, I think Asia is an area that I've personally not explored an awful lot of, other than obviously my time when I was much younger over in India. But I'm really eyeing up Tokyo at the moment. I think that just keeps calling me. Lots of my amazing designers are going over there, and I'm very jealous looking at all their pictures. So that's a place that I would love to visit. Equally, Thailand. The recent White Lotus, I think, is influencing me slightly.
I think it's influencing everybody. I tried to book a flight to Bangkok because I'm going in November, and already the prices are
astronomical.
But exactly. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I would love to do Thailand. And that's, again, a place that, you know, back in the sort of 2010s when I was at uni, a lot of my friends went to Thailand and they did the classic university type Thailand experience. So I think I always sort of skirted around it for that reason. I don't know why. It freaked me out a little bit, but I'd love to go back there now in my 30s and take my little boy and really lean into the cultural side of that. And I love Thai food as well. So I have no doubt that will go down well. Yeah. And I think from a career standpoint, so we're continuing to design amazing hotels. What an amazing job to have, to be able to shape people's experiences when they get to go and travel. And I'm particularly fond of spa experiences. And that was another one of my tips, actually, is to try and always book a massage or a spa experience no matter where you go, because they're so different all over the world. And some of my most fond memories are some of the spa type experiences that I've been able to have. So I think for us, we're shooting for the stars in terms of, the types of projects we'd love to continue to work on. And I'd love to do for example, a gorgeous spa on, I don't know, a Mykonos beachfront or something at some point. But we're very much on that route. And currently we're designing an amazing hotel in Covent Garden, which I think will make a big splash when that gets launched. 300 bedrooms, and we'll continue to kind of work in that realm. And then I think for us, opening our international offices as well is going to be a whole journey in itself, and one that I'm equal parts super excited about, equal parts totally terrified by. But I think, that's the drive in me around not wanting to leave any stones unturned. When my final days arrive, I want to feel like I've done it all. So we're just going to go for it and see what happens.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. I'm sure you will do amazingly well, because you already are. And I hope one day we'll work together on a project, which would be fascinating and very exciting.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining me. It's been wonderful.
Thank you, Tanya. It's been amazing.